Welcome to the Veterans Archives podcast, where we honor our nation's veterans by preserving and sharing their stories. You can also hear Veterans Archives on Wreaths Across America Radio every Thursday at 5 p.m. To learn more about our mission, watch veteran interviews, or find out how to record a veteran story, please visit veteransarchives.org. And if you or a veteran you know needs support or resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org. 3, 2, 1. Today is Monday, June 15th, 2026. We're talking with Mike Carie, who served in the United States Army. So good afternoon, Mike.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for coming and talking with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, we're going to start with the hardest question to begin with, and that is, when and where were you born?
I was born in 1982, January 25th, in Pontiac, Michigan.
1982, the year before I graduated high school. Nice. So did you grow up in Pontiac?
No, I spent a little while there. I went to kindergarten there. My dad was in the Army, so we kind of bounced around. Mm-hmm. I was born there. We lived in Kentucky, Tennessee. He was like a tank site mechanic. Uh-huh. That was his job when he first joined, and then he switched to aircraft mechanic, helicopters, Hueys, and those older birds. We lived in Germany for quite a while, actually, like mid-ish 80s until the 90s. Mm-hmm. When we moved around there. And then back to the States, he became a recruiter. So we moved back to Michigan in 90, maybe 92, I don't know, 92 or 93. And we stayed around Michigan after that.
Okay. What was it like for you to bounce around so much when you were younger?
It was difficult making friends. Like, you don't grow roots. So there's pluses and minuses, but the plus is you become adaptable because you're constantly jumping around. The downside is you don't really make long-term connections anywhere because you're constantly moving. So, and you also have to hit reset every time you move. So, back then, school was more of a rite of passage. It was more bullying, so you constantly had to prove yourself every time you showed up at a new school.
Right. I see. Now, did you have brothers and sisters?
I had one brother,
okay.
A younger brother.
All right. So was he a lot younger than you, or were you close to the same age?
Year and a half.
Okay.
Year and a half younger.
So you guys could kind of take care of each other then while you were getting transitioned in?
Yeah, we did. And, you toughen up. You get used to it after a while. You learn kind of how to make things go fast when you can drag out misery or you can make it go quick.
Right. And misery loves company. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So out of all those places, where do you think your favorite place was?
Honestly, Germany. It's a beautiful country. We did a lot of things there. We, I saw Neuschwanstein Castle, which is a gorgeous castle. It's the Disney castle, basically. Mm-hmm. And then just the nature of the landscape, the Black Forest, the people were very nice in Germany. Germans were kind people. It was a great experience. Mm-hmm.
Now, how old were you when you were in Germany then?
It would have been like right after kindergarten, so maybe 6-ish till about 12.
Oh, okay. So quite a while then.
Yeah, we stayed there for around 6 years.
Long enough to learn the language?
I did not learn the language a lot. I mean, we were in the military school with the other kids that spoke English, so it wasn't really, I didn't know a lot of German kids.
Yeah. Now, that was a long time to live in Germany. What was it like coming back to the United States? Because it seems like a lot of your formative years, you were in military schools in Germany. What was it like to come back to the United States after that? It
was different because he took a recruiter job. We were no longer on an installation.
Right.
So there wasn't, other military kids. So now you're getting integrated into school with kids that don't quite understand the way you grew up, and you don't understand the way they grew up. They've got roots, and you're like, the tumbleweed that just rolled into town. So it was a little different. And while he was a recruiter, he bounced around the state quite a bit. So we went to a lot of different schools in the state of Michigan. So it was like a little, we went to Chesaning for a little while, and then Perry schools, and then Corunna schools, Owasso. So it was constant. That period was very tumultuous. There was a lot of rapid movement. A year or two at this school, and then you were in the new school. So
yeah. How was that for your mom?
Because they kind of we were around the same area. She ended up getting a job as a teller in Owasso. At Centel Credit Union. It's not there anymore. I got absorbed by LAFCU, but right on Main Street there in Owasso, she started out as a teller there, and she would just drive from where we'd live in Perry or whatever. So she was. I think it was a little better for her than for us. It wasn't terrible. It was just making new friends constantly.
Yeah, she got a little continuity, and you got to try and meet new people all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which it's good because, again, you learn how to adapt. So there are some benefits to it. You don't get stuck in a certain way. You get a lot more worldly knowledge. You get to know people. It's not just that community and the way they live. It's every community you're in. You get to pick a little piece of that and take it with you. So there was a lot of positive experiences from that. It was, it gave you a little bit more of a well-rounded education and a well-rounded knowledge of the way the world is and the way culture can be different just in 50 miles from another town.
Yeah. Well, and I would assume like if you stay in the same school district for, K through 12, any of those mistakes you made in your younger years tend to follow you.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't sound like that was the case for you.
Oh, if you get a nickname or something, you can shed it after a couple of years. Some of those other kids have been carrying the same nickname for 12 years,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, during this time, did you play sports? Did you have some favorite subjects in school?
For most of the time, I did really well in school. So I was more of an academic student. I wasn't really a big sports player. I played baseball for a little while, but other than that, not too many sports. It was mostly like spelling bees and that stuff. So, yeah.
That sounds nice. So when where did you finally graduate from then?
Ovid Elsie. I ended up settling in at Ovid Elsie, and I spent my ninth grade through my senior year. So that was the longest I want to say I'd ever been at any one school, was that 4-year period there. And it was actually, it's a small farm community. I think the graduating class was like 80 of us, but it was a very welcoming. I mean, it was a very close-knit, welcoming town, though, because maybe there were so few people. Everybody had to get along, or you weren't going to have any friends. So, so I would say that was probably one of the better schools that I went to, as far as it was really easy to adapt, make friends. There wasn't really a trial period. It just got right in there.
Yeah. Well, by the time you really got to high school, right, you weren't the outsider anymore because you'd had a couple of years at that school district, right?
No, my eighth grade was in Owasso. 7th and 6th were in Corunna.
Oh, okay.
So I just got to 9th grade, but another good thing probably is the fact that back then, kids were coming in from a bunch of different schools. You had a middle school, but you had kids coming in from everywhere, and school of choice was a thing still back then. So there were a lot. You weren't just the only new kid coming in, but as a farm town, they tended to be a little bit calmer. It wasn't a city school. City schools can be a little bit rougher to integrate in, but yeah, it was a good school.
Yeah. And so you get through high school. And you graduate. What happens after that?
So I joined the Army in the delayed entry program a year before I graduated. So I
Okay.
signed up. You know, in my high school years, I was a little bit more rambunctious. You know, I was a teenage boy. My parents had divorced. My mom had trouble reeling me in. So it wasn't a lot of trajectory for me in the right direction. We didn't have money for college. Like, I wasn't going to take out student loans, and it wasn't like I was doing wonderful at that time in school. So, you know, my dad's like, you should join the military. It'll straighten you out, give you some direction, help you sow your wild oats or break you of that habit. And you'll get college money if you want to go to school down the road. So I signed up before my last year of school, end of my junior year. But and I graduated in 2000, and before the month was out, by July, I was on a bus to Fort Knox, Kentucky.
No time to get in trouble.
So no time to lose that contract that I just signed. So,
Right.
So, yeah.
So if your dad was a recruiter, did you have a pretty good idea of what you were getting into when you got to basic training then?
As a recruiter, he was smart enough not to tell me what I was getting into in some ways. And in some ways, I was like, man, I don't know. I guess, how do you say, it was a wonderful experience. But when I went there, I thought, we're going to watch movies, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and maybe that was some people's experiences, but I got sent to Fort Knox. And back then there were, 2 basic trainings left that were all male, and that was Fort Knox and Fort Benning, Georgia.
Yeah.
So we got sent there. They shaved us right to the skin when we showed up.
Oh, yeah.
Good old Kentucky guy with a cigarette in his mouth and a buzzer, sat us in a chair, spun us, and sent us through.
Before you even knew what happened, right?
Yeah, and it was on like Donkey Kong. Wonderful experience. Though, I mean, I don't think if you gave me 1,000 chances to change my choice, I would still have made the same decision, because I don't believe I would be where I am today had I not made that choice.
Right. Yeah, for a lot of people at that time, there was a lot of other choices you could make, but yeah, the military kind of keep you out of trouble as well. So how was basic training? I know it was a good experience, but what were some of the challenges that you had there?
So it was eye-opening for me. Like I said, I played baseball, and I was kind of a slacker in school. I didn't play a lot of sports. I wasn't a very physical kid. So the physical part of it actually was the biggest shock for me. It's like, okay, you show up and it wasn't anything astronomical they were asking you to do, but for somebody who hadn't done much of anything, it was a lot. So I'm like, okay, I got to run a mile to get into basic training, and I got to make sure that I, at least meet the time they want, or this is going to drag out for a long time, and I just want to get through this.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a wake up call with that, but you adapt pretty quick. I mean, they're good at their job when it comes to that. They'll forge you pretty fast. So, but I would say, yeah, it was the physical demand that was a cold splash in the face for me. I mean, I knew there was physical demand. I just didn't realize the level they were going to expect.
Yeah. Did you find that you were able to do things maybe you didn't think you could do?
Yeah. You start out, and then like me, I did my first mile run, and it was probably the first time I ever actually ran a full mile, just to get into the training unit. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, I thought my whole body was going to start cramping. I'm like, I was just kind of doing a weird chicken walk, And by the end of basic training, you're running 2, 3, 4 miles, but you can run 2 miles. And again, you're not Usain Bolt, but 14 minutes, 15 minutes for a couple of miles from a kid who could barely make it through the first mile in, a 9-week period. It's pretty amazing, where you end up in such a short period of time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there was a lot that we did that I and learn just the things you learn. You go in there and we go through school and we learn the standard system. I didn't know anything about the metric system, and then here comes the military, and they're like, "Look, it's easier. Watch, do this, do that." You learn how to read a map. You learn how to do all these different things. U.S. weapons, different tactics, basic infantry tactics, and it's all balled together in this course that's shorter than most college classes.
Yeah.
And you come out of that thing knowing more than you might know after you take a whole associate's program. After going to college, it's just amazing what they can do.
Yeah. I mean, they've got it down to a science after 200.
Oh yeah, they've got it figured out.
50 years or something like that. Yeah. It's true though. I mean, that's an experience a lot of people have, is you learn so much in such a short period of time, but you're not taking like underwater basket weaving. You're actually learning your skill set.
Yeah.
So now at graduation, did your family come down for your graduation?
Yeah, my mom, my dad, my brother came down. We got to basic training in July. It was summer surge, so there was a few weeks before any training units opened up. So we just kind of sat in reception in a big group, stacked to the ceiling. And so I didn't end up getting into a training unit and graduating until I graduated in October. Our unit did. Mm-hmm. And they came down, so it was a little cooler out. It wasn't as, Kentucky can be a little bit warm in the summer.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I honestly didn't know that Kentucky had that many hills until I went to basic training there. I'm like, wow, this is a rocky, hilly region,
Yeah, ran up every one of them, right?
Oh yeah. Yep. Or marched up them, and they nickname everything there, and it's not a good name. So it's like, which one are you going to do today? We're doing Misery today. But, yeah, they came down. My mom came down, my brother, and we had family day. And I finally got to leave the little bubble I was living under, and get some McDonald's for the first time in a while, and
right?
Eat what I wanted to eat instead of what I was, what was put in front of me. So it was you learn to appreciate some creature comforts after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have an appreciation for things you didn't appreciate before.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Things you didn't have that had zero value become some of the most valuable things.
Sleep.
Yeah.
All those things. So you graduate from basic training, and then did you go to AIT right there at Knox then?
I went to Fort Jackson. I was a 63 Bravo, which at that time was a light vehicle mechanic.
Okay.
So I shipped to Fort Jackson, and I did AIT there. Came home for Christmas Exodus. We were there through Christmas. And then once I finished AIT, it's, the level of difficulty kind of they get you through the hard stuff right off the bat, and then, you've gone through all that. So now when you're doing that and combining it with learning a job, it's just not, you're toughened up by then, I guess is the best way to put it. So the AIT, it wasn't, it was sharpening some skills and then learning the specific job that I was going to do. Mm-hmm. So that it was fun. We learned how to work on trucks in the field. Our field problem was getting trucks in the field, working on them, checking a truck for booby traps that was left behind by somebody and we were supposed to recover it, different things like that. So it was a slightly different experience than basic training.
Right.
And then, we all got our orders for our first unit, and mine was Patriot Battery in El Paso, at Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Fort Bliss, I feel like that's misnamed.
It's huge. I think it's actually the largest by size military installation because of the training, the size of the training grounds.
Right.
But yeah, it is. You make your wish list out, and they're like, where do you want to go? And then they send you exactly where you didn't ask for it. You can make a list, and I think they do it on purpose. They're like, they want to know where you want to go, so they send you elsewhere. So, I picked all green places, and I ended up in the desert.
That's why they call it a wish list, right? You wish you were going there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
how long were you at Bliss?
I was at Bliss for a couple years. I was in Charlie 1-1 Air Defense Artillery, which we were Patriot Battery attached to 3rd Armored Corps. So we were their air defense system. So third, I learned a lot actually about that, how Patriots work and all that. You think that they just park them somewhere, and they don't. They actually jump a lot.
Oh,
and it's very taxing. It's very demanding because, like, an Armored Corps is a lot more mobile. So when you're following them and you're their safety net, and you're packing up missile launchers, maybe every 10, 12 hours and moving them behind them so you can stay within range. It's the op tempo is really high actually. And a lot of NBC stuff because what you're shooting down, basically just hits a scud or something, and whatever's in that scud still kind of comes out. It just doesn't hit and impact people. So we learned a lot about that stuff. We did a lot of field problems and jumping sites, and there were actually a lot of competitions. Garner's Cup was one competition against all the other air defenses in the world because we train, at least we did. I think they actually moved them around, but back then all the air defense was pretty much centered at Fort Bliss, and we trained, German air defense and all these other countries' air defense units, plus the Marines would come there and train. So we had a competition against all of them to see who, was the best group. And we actually our battery took second place. So,
wow. It's quite an accomplishment. That's a lot of work too.
It was the most probably intense, grueling work other than deployment, I would say, in the military that I ever did. You're in a mop suit in 100 and some degree weather, and if you're on the RSOP team, which I was on the RSOP team, you're reconning the site ahead of the unit in gear, setting things up, and it really teaches you what hard work is.
I think back on some of those things, and I'm like, how did I survive this?
Yeah,
it's 120 degrees out here. How did I even do this? Because now I don't like to go out in shorts and a t-shirt when it's 90 degrees.
Oh yeah. No, I'm the same way. I'm like, where's the air conditioning at?
Exactly. Yeah, I think it changes us a little bit. So you spent 2 years at Bliss, and then where did you go from there?
So I finished my first enlistment, and I actually joined the Guard. I got out. I spent a little bit of time in the Guard. I had gotten out in, what would have been 2002. I was going to go to school. I was going to, I joined the Guard. I was going to use the Guard, and I had, back then we had the, good old Army College Fund. It was before the post 9/11 GI Bill. You signed up for that Army College Fund money, and so I had that, and I was going to go to school. Obviously, September 11th had already happened. We were an air defense unit. Not much demand for them in Afghanistan, so they didn't deploy us to Afghanistan. At first, that unit actually got deployed to White Sands Missile Range to guard something out there. To this day, I don't know what it was, but they had us at a big perimeter around it. I ended up in the 1775th MP company out of Pontiac.
Yeah.
So I was in that unit for about a year. And my girlfriend got pregnant, and I needed medical insurance. And so I went back on active duty. I said, all right, I want to go back on active duty. I need medical insurance. I'm about to have this kid.
Right.
At that point in time, that unit wasn't deployed. So we were just kind of sitting there. So they said, all right, yeah, we'll throw you back in. And, needs of the Army, basically. If you want to go back on active duty, you're spinning the wheel, and we're going to send you wherever. Well, they sent me to Fort Lewis, Washington. So I went to Fort Lewis, and I got put in the 54th Medical Company, which was a Medevac unit. And at the time, between the Guard, active Army, and everybody, there were 12 Medevac companies total. So with Iraq and Afghanistan Iraq's kicking off because it's 2003, and Afghanistan's already a couple of years into it. A lot of the Medevac units were constantly getting deployed. So I got there, and to Iraq we go in 2003.
Wow.
So I get my new kid, my new wife. All right, I'll see you guys when I see you again. But
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break.
Before we continue, we'd like to share a resource that may be helpful to veterans and their families. The Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org is designed to connect veterans with support, resources, and a community that understands their experiences. If you or a veteran you know could benefit from those resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app and learn more at vetlifetoday.org. Now, did she move out to Fort Lewis with you then?
she came out there and then went right back. I sent her right back. I was like, you stay with your mom, you're going to have support, you're going to have family. Not that they have wonderful support groups in the military. Me being new to a unit and the post and not really knowing much, I'm like, you're probably going to do better if you just go home. You got a new kid. You don't even have a friend here at this point.
Right.
So I sent her home and I went to Iraq and we ended up, in our little compound on Camp Anaconda.
Yeah.
This was 2003, so Camp Anaconda evolved over the years. I got to see it again 9 months after we got back the first time because they sent us right back.
Oh my gosh.
We left Iraq with orders to come back because they didn't have enough Medevac companies.
Yeah.
We ended up actually absorbing another unit's birds, so we went from a company size unit to a battalion sized company. It was really weird. We had like 26 birds, but the first time we were there, it was just Marines and Army, and it was real grunny. We had our own compounds in the compound.
Yeah.
Balad Air Base didn't really have a perimeter back then.
It wasn't really a fob at that point, right? It was
just kind of, we took it over and it was ours. So everybody kind of had their own little compound, that Special Forces guys had their little space. We had our space with the helicopters and sandbags and HESCO baskets, and the Marines had theirs, and we pulled guard off those MiG bunkers you see out there. Yeah. We climb up that, and that was a scary, I'm not a big heights guy. I mean, I can handle it, but climbing into one of those sandstone bunkers to pull guard duty in body armor is an experience in itself.
Yeah, you don't want to repeat it, right?
No, not at like 2 a.m. Yeah. It's dark. You got nods because the camp lighting even was terrible. I mean, I don't know what the Iraqis were doing for a base there, but they had wouldn't meet American standards by any measure. It was just basically somebody built some adobe bunkers and put some huts out in the middle of somewhere.
Right. Wow. Man. So how long were you there the first time?
So the first tour I did, I was about 6 months. We came back in the spring of 2004. We spent some time at KMB. After the first tour or whatever, because of combat ops and stuff, they were a little worried we were going to come home and act crazy. Right. So there was a decompression period at KMB. We stayed at Kuwaiti Naval Base for at least 30 days. It might have been longer. It's kind of, I slept most of the time because it was like, all right, I don't have to do anything.
You could finally sleep, really.
Yeah. It's like, it's quieter here. I'm going to sleep. So I spent most of that time honestly sleeping. And, we'd clean weapons. We had to clean the trucks because at that point, before they realized that we were there to stay for a while, we were sending the same equipment back and forth. And the standards for cleaning that stuff is great. They don't want anything on it.
No sand, not even a grain.
No.
Yeah.
It was 20 hours into a Humvee, and you're like, really, can you please just let me go?
Yeah. I just want to go home. Were you guys pretty busy there on that first tour?
Yeah, we were. It was constant. You had, before you had real good established supply lines through the country and stuff like that, you were convoying to pick things up.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, if we needed something out of the norm, or, a lot of things, sometimes parts, especially for the birds, you would have to go to Kuwait, pick them up, and then come back. And then, the operations for the Medevac unit itself was super busy. We ended up with teams spread out across the country. Mm-hmm. So our main hub was at Anaconda, and then there were small teams with like 3 birds in like Kirkuk and, different places like that. Bakiba, they just peppered them around the country.
Yeah.
But I, the whole time, both tours, it was a pretty busy deployment. I mean, the Army was pretty stretched then. I had gone there and it was my first tour, and there's a guy that had been to Afghanistan twice already. It's his 3rd tour. And I'm like, it's 2003, man. Like,
yeah, we haven't been doing this that long.
I'm like, you're going to get a lot of stripes there.
Yeah. Well, I know guys that went over for a 12-month tour and were on the runway to come home and got called back for another 6 months, and they had packed up and they were headed home.
That would be disappointing.
Yeah, that was a crazy time to be there. So, I mean, for the 9 months that you were back home, what did you do? What was that like?
So, because we brought our equipment back, there's your leaf blower guy.
There's all kinds of words going through my head right now. This is what I don't understand. I don't know what they're blowing, but they do this for like at my house.
Yeah, just justify the price, I guess.
I'm like, you guys didn't even mow that long, but you're out here blowing stuff up that doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
1 second. My rant might be over. Oh, good, he broke it.
Oh, I just get a bigger leaf blower out.
I just want to look at the time on this because I need to go back and edit this part out. So we're at about 30 minutes. Okay, cool. So we were talking about you came back for 9 months, but we brought everything back, and like the birds had to be shrink wrapped. Everything was going by ship across the water, and because when you're deployed and in the heat there just destroys things. Basically you beat all that equipment to death. So that 9 months was just getting ready to come back. We got our stuff back. Took a minute for it to get back because, it hit the East Coast, railhead, come across to Washington, which is all the way on the other side. We actually got stuff that was tagged on the railhead, by homeless people or whatever. Some of the trucks had been lived in, and you could tell, like the Humvees and stuff. Nice. Homeless people were chilling in them. But yeah, we ended up having to rebuild all the trucks and all the, get the generators back up to snuff and stuff, because most of the power you had over there, and especially like on the little bases and fobs, it was all Army generators that you had run wires around the camp for. So we spent most of that time getting ready to put it all back on a boat and send it back over. Yeah, it was like, why bother? You could have just refitted while you were over there and just
left it there, which is what they did to the unit that replaced us, and we replaced them again. So we I think it was actually a guard medevac unit that replaced us. They left their birds and everything. That's how we ended up with twice as many birds. Yeah. We brought our birds. They left theirs. The Army finally was like, okay, we're spending a lot of money just shuffling the same stuff back and forth. Leave it all there. Leave the trucks, leave the birds. So we had twice as many trucks, twice as many birds, but it was all there. And just ready to go. So you're just moving people.
Right.
So we got our stuff ready. We sent it over. They, we sent it by ship again. We, got to Kuwait, and instead of convoying a lot of this stuff across the country, the birds, they could just hop and fly, but, the trucks, they started loading those on like C-17s and stuff like that, C-5s. So we would just load them up, chain them down, launch them to Balad, because that air base had a lot of runways. And actually, the most amazing part of all of it was what the U.S. military did with that compound in the 9 months that we weren't there.
Yeah.
Because we came back and it was a city. It was a whole different world. You had these cement T barriers up. You had Air Force jets. You had a camp. You had trailer towns on there that people were staying in. And it went from being a tent city to being an actual city, basically. You had a perimeter fence with towers and guards. Just insane, the amount of infrastructure that was put together in a 9-month period.
Yeah, almost like building a whole city within 9 months.
It was, you never seen anything like it. Michigan road crews learned a lot from that.
Yeah. Shh, don't say that out loud. But no, you're right. I never saw an orange barrel over the whole time I was there. They just built stuff.
It just got done.
Yeah,
they knocked it out.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Like, how did your wife take this? Because that's a pretty quick turnaround, and now you're gone again.
Yeah, not too well. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. So, she just, we had 9 months of whatever time we could get. I ended up sending her back home again. That's what she wanted to do. It worked out well for her the first time. And, she ended up pregnant before she went home with our second daughter, Maya. So she was pregnant, had a young kid, and here comes another one on the way. So she went home. Maya was due in February. We deployed. We left December 23rd. They sent us December. Why they chose to have 2 units gone at Christmas at the same time?
Wow.
I'll never, ever understand the decision they made, but they sent us out there December 20. We flew out on December 23rd. So
that's just insult to injury there.
That really was. And to this day, I'm like, whoever made that decision was either not thinking or they just were not friendly. I don't know which one it was.
They either didn't think or didn't care.
Yeah. Or maybe they just hit a button and that's what came out.
So off you go again.
So we're gone. We leave. And shuffling people, they were doing a lot of civilian flights because they had a contract for like Delta and all that. So you would fly Delta to Kuwait and a big, whatever, 777 or whatever they were using. And then from Kuwait, it was military from there. But it was kind of a weird, you're on a civilian flight with, M16s and all this stuff.
Here's what I didn't get, right? So I had my M16, I had my M9, right? I had all my, but they still took my damn fingernail clippers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. That's like, you got, 100 people on this flight who can blow a hole in the side of this plane, but you're worried about some nail clippers.
Yep. I guess rules is rules. So we'll just let them.
It was a weird time.
Yeah. So talk me through that second deployment. How did it compare to the first one?
It was, I'd say it was more structured. It was less chaotic. It was more, there was structure the first time, but just organized chaos, I guess, is the best way to put it. The first tour was just, and a lot of new things too, like, experiences that even training can't really prepare you for. It familiarizes you with what you might see, but there's just nothing like the real thing.
Yeah, true.
It really isn't.
True.
And sometimes it's hard to articulate, but it's a feeling, it's like the first time you come under indirect fire and it's real, or direct fire and it's real. It's not the same as crawling under a barbed wire fence and training with machine guns shooting over your head.
Exactly.
So, the first time it was shock for me, I was, when things happen, you're just like, whoa, the like everybody's crawling on the ground and things are exploding for real, not just making noise. The second time, once you're used to it, I don't know a better way to put it, but once you're conditioned for it, so the second time you go, you're a little more hardened. It gets to the point where it's like you're playing cards and you're like, that's not that close. Let's finish the hand, But the organization too for everything, the buildup was there. There were some amenities, like we had AAFES is ready to make money no matter where you are in the world.
That's right. They'll put up a tent if they have to.
They will. They are the mobile salesmen of the planet.
They are.
And they had their own little, you could buy cigarettes, they had their own shacks or whatever. They had buildings. And if they could find a hole that nobody was using, they were selling something out of it.
Now, did you guys have the pogs for money? Because AAFES didn't take cash when we were there.
We had a when they finally got everything established, they actually had what do they call it? It was like a finance facility, and you could go in and do like a cash advance.
Yeah.
The old paper style. I mean, it was not a great method. Or you could write checks, which after that experience, it was the only time in my entire life I wrote checks.
Uh-huh.
And AAFES saved every one of them for a good 6 months. And I didn't know how much money was in the account. I mean, this is before iPhones. There were cell phones, but I didn't have one, and the ones you had were nothing like what you see today.
Right.
So I didn't know how much money I had. I told my wife, I'm like, just leave $200 a paycheck in there, and we'll have money by the time this is done. We'll save some money because I'll never need that much. But you know, I smoked at the time, so I was like, I'm gonna buy cigarettes and maybe a bag of beef jerky or whatever they got on the counter. But so I wrote these checks, and she saw this money piling up, and she spent it. And those things bounced like rubber balls when they finally cashed them. Bad experience, experience, especially when you're finding this out with a phone card on a telephone, because unless you could get your hands on a sat phone, you were waiting in line with everybody else in this little phone tent or whatever they had set up. And, you couldn't spend forever there hashing things out. It was like 30 minutes of let's argue about this and then we're done. So yeah, weird experience. But yeah, they had a finance section, and you could do a cash advance on your check and get actual dollars and then trade them to the Iraqis for dinars.
Right. Exactly. So how long were you there the second time then?
We were there till November. That was a year deployment. Mm-hmm. We were there for the 12 months or whatever, just shy. I don't know. The Army had a weird rule where they didn't want you on the ground for more than a year in country.
Had to do with money. With money. Yeah, because there was two very important dates, right? There was your BOG date, your boots on ground date, because that started the clock.
Yep.
And then they had to get you out of there within 12 months of that. Otherwise, there was some pay issues.
Oh yeah. You got some kickers from them. They had to throw your way. So they made sure they got you out of there just before the struck midnight.
Exactly. So you leave there again. You come back home. You come back to Fort Lewis then?
Yeah, we come back to Fort Lewis. And we left everything there, the birds and all that stuff. So we get back to Fort Lewis, and the Army is transitioning at this point from a Cold War, we've got these giant corps and divisions and all these things. They started doing their modular army. They wanted to pack everybody together and, have these Army Frisbees they could throw wherever they wanted. So our unit disbanded. We got orders to disband, and they were reforming at Fort Bragg. They were going to go over there. 82nd Airborne, I think, was who was taking them on. And my enlistment was up at this point. Mm-hmm. Well, almost. I was, March, May 2006, right in that range. It'd have been May of 2006, was my ETS. So I helped them kind of turn things in and clean things up and package things to ship, throw them in connexes, whatever, and paperwork stuff to disband. It was that period was actually a lot calmer than between the first and the next deployment.
Oh yeah.
It was, it was actually pretty relaxed and chill. A lot of getting stuff done and then going home at noon when there wasn't anything left. So it was a nice calm period, with that going on. And then I got out in 2006. I had a few leave days, so it was before May that I left, but
So you came back to Michigan.
went on terminal leave. Yeah. Yep. I come back to Michigan with a slight plan, but not much of a plan. just I'm heading north for the winter.
Yeah, time to take a little break.
Yeah. I was like, well, what got me is there was no end in sight, and it was obvious at that point. After back-to-back deployments, and talking to guys that in 2005, this is their 5th tour, and there are people starting to break at this point already. And some that aren't, some that are, some people thrive in that environment, and the biggest thing for me, I could have done it. I don't know if I could say forever, but for a long time I could have done it. But not with a family.
Yeah.
That's really where the line drew. I had kids. Every time I showed up, they were different children. Watching them grow up in photographs and in letters, I just felt like I was asking too much of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard on a family.
So that's what, I'm like, I had kids for a reason. I did what I needed to do to take care of them. I need to do something different to take care of them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so how was it coming? I mean, with back-to-back deployments, what was it like coming home and being done? Like, not only did you finish up your deployment, but then you got out. So and then you came back to Michigan.
Yeah.
What was that whole thing like for you?
So honestly, it was, I don't know how to explain it. It was so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe because my children were my focus. I wanted to make sure, I'm like, I can't just get out of the Army and then, we're living in a car eating squirrel pie.
Right.
Like, I got to do something else. I got to keep moving forward. So I kind of just kept this forward mobility mentality. And, my marriage didn't do well. That marriage didn't last, but, because now we're living together, that's a whole different ball of wax. But,
Right.
And when we had gotten together, we never really had time together. So, after all these years, 2 different people, but, I got back here and I was going to do an apprenticeship. I was dead set. I'm going to do an apprenticeship, whether it's electric, I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to do one because, it pays decently. The economy was kind of sliding at that point. Housing market crash wasn't too far into the future, so
Right.
It was starting to lose its grip. But that just seemed like a sure bet. Like the military is a sure bet. If you want a stable financial future, the Army will take care of you, the Navy will take care of you, whoever, as long as you take care of them.
Great.
And that's the same thing I wanted without the not seeing the kids part.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of important.
Yeah. So I that was my focus. So I actually called the Department of Labor for the state. I talked to somebody with the state, and I want to say they were from the Department of Labor. It's been 20 years now, but, and I was just like, hey, do you guys got any apprenticeships? Like, how do I go about this? I don't even know. And they're like, well, we'll give you a list of places that does them. You're not going to deal with us. We don't really do that. Talk to these places.
Right.
And the Board of Water and Light was one of the people on the list. So I had made some phone calls, and I had called the Board of Water and Light, and they were like, well, you can't just walk in here and we say, yes, you got to go through a process. We have a hiring process. Do this, do that. Watch the website. And when something comes up, apply. And I was like, oh, okay. And so in the meantime, I'm like, well, and my brother-in-law had worked at Comcast Cable.
Yeah.
And he's like, it pays pretty well. You can go to school, start the classes for whatever apprenticeship, And at the time, I was kind of focused on electrical. I'm going to do an electrical apprenticeship. And he's like, well, take the schooling for that and just work here, and you can still feed your kids and all that. I'm like, okay. So I applied there. And then the board had a plant janitor for the water plant open up. And I was like, that's decent money. You know, it was like $14 an hour at the time, which I thought was really, really great.
Yeah.
So I applied for it. And I went through an interview process with Comcast, did all the stuff, nothing from the board. I'm like, so after maybe 6 to 8 weeks, I called the board and I was like, hey, I need to know, should I move on with my life? You know, what's going on? Oh, yeah, we were going to call you for an interview. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good news. Not what I thought I was going to hear.
Right. When are you going to call me?
That was pretty much it. I'm like, when can we do this?
Yeah. So you go for your interview. Apparently you got the job, I'm assuming.
Yes, I did. So I went in and I, and I went through TAPS or whatever it was through the military, how to interview and how to write a resume class, which actually was very helpful. Mm-hmm. So I did what they said to do, and I took, I built a resume, and then I built a binder with all the supporting documents that supported what I put in the resume, like, hey, this is the certificates I've gotten, this is whatever. And then I went in and interviewed, and I chose the first interview. They're like, well, you can pick. We haven't called anybody yet. And I'm like, oh, I'll go first. We just get it out of the way.
Right.
Either I'll set the pace or they'll trip over the bar on their way in.
Right. Either way, you're done.
I'm telling you, either way, I'm through it, and and we'll do this. So I went in and I did it, and again waited. I'm like, okay, I must have done terrible. It's like 6, 7, 8 weeks. Call them. Hey, should I move on with my life again? Oh no, we were going to offer you the job, and I'm like. Okay. They're like, yeah, it's a conditional offer. You go take your drug test at Sparrow. And if you pass and you pass the physical, you're hired. I'm like, okay, well, what time can I go? Like,
Right.
I'm on my way.
Make sure the paperwork gets there before I do.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah. So I did that.
Uh-huh. And so this is what, 2006?
Yep, this would be August of 2006 was my hire, and that's when I finally got through the interviews, finally called.
Yeah.
So I got out in May. I started this process right after that, probably applied for that job in early June, and it's August, and they're like, okay, well, you can start the middle of August, So we're a couple months into this.
Yeah. I never understood the whole reasoning behind taking so long to do anything, but that's kind of typical, especially in utility business, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I know.
They're good jobs, though, so I'm not going to complain.
No, I wasn't. Yeah. I didn't say a cross word. I was just like, well, I worked, so I'm here.
Yeah. So how long did you do the janitorial work then?
So I got in, I started the janitorial job, and they're like, it's kind of a feeder job, you're going to do this, but really, you're going to be an operator. You're going to be a water operator.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, okay. And the turnover rate in an operations job is actually kind of high, even though it pays well. Again, it's one of those sacrificial type jobs where, you're working nights and weekends and holidays, and your family's enjoying Christmas, and you may come home in the morning and watch them open gifts if you're lucky, but it pays well. And for me, 12 hours at home was better than no hours at home. So I looked at it like, this is some pretty green grass for me. I was gone for a year. I'll take a couple hours,
It's all perspective.
It really is.
It's all perspective, yeah.
So for me, it was a dream landing, it was good money. I got to be home.
Yeah.
I got to watch him every day. I could see what was happening next. I could be involved in something, which is better than nothing.
Right.
So yeah, I did that, and you had to get licensed, so I went and took the state test and got licensed, and parked on nights for a while. There was an incident at the South Side plant. An operator made a mistake and compromised the facility, and he made a couple tons of chlorine gas, and it just basically wrecked the whole plant. Everything ran but it wasn't going to we didn't shut it off. We had to rebuild. It was $23 million to rebuild what happened.
That's a big mistake.
That was a big mistake. But so me and two other guys, Rick and Steve, they trusted us, so they parked us out there for pretty much the whole project. They're like, look, we know if anyone's going to keep the place running, you three guys are going to keep the wheels on. And we need the wheels to stay on this facility until we get new wheels.
So basically you're trying to operate at the same time they're trying to renovate.
Oh, yeah, we ran it. And so what would end up happening is they would build a wooden panel with all the controls on it.
Uh-huh.
And we ran dual controls. Like these controls were set up to be run, and these old ones that were still running. And the old switch panel was a switchboard with the pull-out alarms. I mean, it was an old switchboard, and we were switching to all this new tech because now tech in 2012, tech's come a long way from the 70s tech that was in that building.
Yeah, definitely.
So we had a switchboard with a bunch of Yokogawa controllers and all these different controllers on it. And they would do cutovers of equipment piece by piece, and we'd run off of that panel, and then they'd tear that whole old panel out, build a new metal one, and then slowly move the equipment from that. But it was a big deal. It was hard to run the facility and fix it at the same time.
Oh yeah, a lot easier to just shut it down and rebuild it and come back, but you couldn't do that.
No, because it's a water facility and it supplied, the south side of Lansing.
Oh yeah,
we had to keep it going so that they could maintain service. So
yeah, people want their showers.
Oh yes,
There's no doubt.
Yeah, and then,
about that.
I mean, even though we got a river, the access to good drinking water is not, it's not that easy for when you got this many residents. So
No, that's true. So how long was that project?
that total time lasted, I would say, 2 years-ish.
Okay.
From start to where they were kind of done. And they did everything in the building. From equipment, controllers, chemical mixing machines. I mean, they replaced pretty much all the switch gear up in the switch gear room, all the electrical. It looked like someone had took the building, dropped it in the ocean for 100 years, and then pulled it back out and set it on the land. And I mean, it aged that facility so fast. It was a crazy thing. You could go in there with like a shiny penny, and just set it on the counter, and it wouldn't take it 5 minutes, and it looked like the oldest penny you had in your pocket.
Sounds like a super healthy atmosphere to be working in.
I mean, for the water and the treatment process, it wasn't like a hazard to the public,
Right.
Because chlorine gas is chlorine. We feed chlorine in water, and the water isn't going to pull the gas out of the air. It's going to react with the metals and things like that. But for a human being, we were in Tyvek suits and SCBAs, and we were in there doing until it cleared out enough to where you could go in there without gear on. We were in there in full gear.
This whole thing just sounds like a nightmare scenario.
It was. I thought I was back in the military, and I'm like, well,
here I am in my MUP suit.
pretty much. I'm like, the only difference is I got a bottle on my back.
Exactly. I can really breathe. Wow. So after that project, then what did you?
So I came back to Dye Water, which is the main water plant there by the Lugnut Stadium, the one you visited the other day.
Old building.
And I operated there for a little while. I started, for the longest time, you have to have a F4 to operate, and for the longest time, I was content with that. And then I decided I'm going to start studying, and I'm going to take a higher license. And so I took the F2 and I operated, and I did that for a while. Pretty status quo, just operating the plant. And then I got, they were having trouble with shift supervisors. They couldn't keep them. They either quit because they just couldn't handle, the rough and tumble industry guys, or they just weren't functioning very well, and they left involuntarily.
Right.
So I got recruited into management. Please take the shift supervisor job. And I pulled the old Van Halen trick because I was in the union. I'm like, I'm in the union. Why would I leave the union?
Yeah.
We're protected. We got it made here. I hate to say it. I'll do my job, but I don't want to leave the umbrella I'm under. And they're like, well, and I didn't ask for a lot, but I was like, I want a bowl of blue M&Ms. I did the old Van Halen contract trick,
Right.
thinking that they wouldn't mean it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, they'll never be able to do that. And it wasn't even that much, but in that world, it is. And they came back with a bowl of blue M&Ms, and I was like, well, I got to put my money where my mouth is. I made a deal with the devil. Now I got to make it. I got to make good on that. So I signed. I wanted to help too. I mean, I'm being a little funny, but we were in a place where they needed better leadership than we had in the past. The employees needed more stability than we had because of the turnover rate of bad supervisors. And, even management kind of needed that. Everybody kind of needed an anchor, more of an anchor than we had in the past.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, I'll do it. I'll go in and, I'll get beat with the rubber chicken next. So I signed on for that.
Nice way to think of it. So, I think the interesting thing, though, is that, I think it kind of like the military, right? Some of the better leaders were the guys who were enlisted for a while and then became officers, right?
Yeah, green and gold, right?
Right, exactly. I found that in the utility business that a lot of your really good leaders are the guys and gals who were in the union for a number of years and made that switch. The problem is it is so hard to get union people to make that switch because why would I do that?
Yeah, it's just because, and the other thing is you see all these, even though it's not apples to apples, you see these people being unsuccessful and you're like, well, what if I'm that guy?
Right.
Like, you can be that guy in the union and you still might make it. You can't be that guy in the non-bargaining unit and make it. They will just fling you like cordwood.
Right. They will find someone else to do that job.
Exactly.
Very quickly.
So, yeah, it is. But you're right. I mean, the green to gold folks in the military tended to do much better. It was less theoretical. It was more practical. Like, I've done this. I didn't just read it in a book, guys. So
this stuff really works. I know it does.
Yeah. I promise I won't get you lost. The map's not upside down.
Exactly. So, well, I think the other piece too, like you came from the union, you already have a relationship with your union, and I mean, you cannot be in management and not have a good relationship with your union.
No,
it absolutely does not work.
No, it doesn't. Well, that's some of what these other guys I think didn't quite. I think that's where the disconnect for some of these other folks were that tried those the leadership positions. It's not Coca-Cola. It's not a sweatshop, or even a non-sweat. If in a place where there's no union. Yeah, okay, it's the old school, I'm the boss, you'll do this,
right?
No questions asked. A union shop, there's equal say. It's more of a partnership, and you become more of a facilitator as a leader than as a traditional, leader. You're still a leader, but you have to be very creative as a leader in a union shop, where in a belt buckle factory, you can just tell them to do it. Hit the green button. That's what I said to do.
Right. Well, the other thing is you're not building widgets either.
No, you're not. Yeah, you want thinkers in those jobs.
Yeah.
So it's not. It does. I think it takes that experience. You can't pluck somebody out of a different environment and drop them in. It's just not translatable at all. They're speaking a totally different language is really what it comes down to. And, they're dealing, and let's be fair, when you're making widgets, the people making the widgets aren't widget experts. They just are green button experts.
Right.
So it maybe takes that style of leadership of, hey, hit the green button. That's what I said to do. Where in a utility, you got SMEs, like some of these people might know more than you do.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to be humble enough to know that and, and intelligent enough to employ that skill set without upsetting the apple cart.
Right. Yeah. The book says that's how you do it, but experience says that's not how it works, right? You see that all the time, especially in the utility business, where here's what the book says you're supposed to do, but it doesn't work in this situation because of whatever.
Yep.
There's a rock in the way, or the customer doesn't want it there, or whatever it is.
Or, a contractor put this panel on instead of that panel. Right. I mean, you need the adaptability of a workforce that, for lack of a better phrase, questions its leadership regularly.
Right.
Because they don't just question you, they will question you regularly. Like, are you sure we should do it like this? Well, let's think through this together. So
yeah, that's usually a clue when someone says, "Are you sure that's what you want?"
Exactly. They kind of give you, it's a get out of jail free card.
Right. Because I'll do it the way you're telling me to, but
yeah, but I do have a better way.
Right.
So yeah, and it did. There's still, I feel, a learning curve, no matter who you are, especially coming from the military. My experience with leadership in the military is a little more of the, not always, but
many times.
My word is law. I'm an NCO, or I'm on whatever your rank is. Once you have some stripes or a bar or something on your collar, I have the backing of the UCMJ. I'm not just your boss. I have a thick book that sits behind me
that I'll hit you with.
Yeah, that could possibly bear you. Not that that's how you want to do things, but we all know it. You know it coming up. They let you know, like, hey, there are legal orders, and as long as those orders are legal, you don't really get to question them too much. You might be able to, object a little bit and be like, "Are you sure?" Yes, I'm sure. Okay, I guess we're going to run up this hill. But, so there was a little bit of, I had to kind of unlearn a little bit of what I knew from being an NCO in the Army to, being a shift supervisor in a utility business. It was, it wasn't huge, but it was definitely taking a step back for myself and going, okay, I have to shed some of this skin.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the key to being successful when you transition out, right? Is you need to know what military things are going to work and what military things you just need to put behind you.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. Not everything translates to different worlds,
That's
right?
That's right. So I want to back up a little bit. You were married. You had 2 children. When if you don't mind my asking, when did you end up getting divorced? When did the split happen?
That would have been 2007, around 2007. So after about a year after I had gotten out of the Army, we were living together. We had a house. And honestly, I think it was probably more me. I couldn't live with who she was by the time I came back because she was her own person. And she did things like there was nobody else in the house.
Right, because there hadn't been.
Because there hadn't. So, to her defense, here I come, and I'm like expecting things to be similar to the way things used to be. And they're nothing like the way they used to be. And I had a hard time adapting to that. Yeah. To like, oh, okay, we're almost 2 separate people in here. And a marriage can work like that. Absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I couldn't reconcile it.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I just couldn't do it. So we ended up splitting up. Mm-hmm. And then, I ended up remarrying a few years down the road. My second wife, Jessica, and I had 2 more. I had another daughter. I ended up with 3 daughters, and then the youngest is a son. So I rounded it out with a son.
I had a cousin who had 6 daughters trying for a boy. So,
and some people, you can just keep going. And
I don't think so. That's just not a good thing. So you're currently married then?
No. We ended up we lasted a long time. Actually, I thought that marriage would last forever, but she ended up, I don't know if it's like, if I had the monkey's paw or what, but she ended up schizophrenic. She ended up getting schizophrenia, and I tried to get her help for, I would say, 5-6 years, and I got her in, but she wouldn't cooperate with treatment. That was kind of the hardest part. And I had kids, we had kids living in this situation. And as much as you say, like, sickness and health, there are some sicknesses that, there's triage sometimes. And that's what it came down to is the kids weren't, I don't think they were in danger of her killing them, but the damage she was doing to their psychological well-being was bad. It's just as bad. It just wasn't an environment conducive to the kids. And they were still, they were 6, 7 at the time. So I had to make a decision where it's like, all right, if you don't want to cooperate with treatment and you're hiding pills under the mattress and I'm finding full bottles and you're just refilling it like you took them all. And I did. I found a basket of months and I'm like, well, now I know why things aren't really changing around here. You're hiding this stuff. I ended it. I said, you know what? All right. And the kids lived with me. I kept custody of the children. She got to see them, but it was better for them mentally. And they were starting to get that, it was stressing them out big time. It's not, it's just not an environment for children. So that marriage didn't end. And, I've dated over the years and I've done some things, but, being a bachelor dad ain't that bad for me,
It works for you, right?
It works for me. And I got to concentrate on my kids a lot. And, the other ones were older when all this took place, so they were kind of out of the woods already, teenagers, and wasn't really. It was me and her kids that were paying the price,
right?
But we go to Disney, we do our thing, and yeah.
So your kids are all older now. Then they're all.
Oh yeah. I got one starts U of M. She's 21 or 22, and she starts U of M here this fall. Yeah, she's going to go for graphic arts. And then her sister Maya is going to start at LCC for social work. So, so both of them are in college. They're Olive, which is the oldest one of my second marriage's kids. She's driving now. And her brother Fallon, he's not far behind me. He's as tall as me now.
Yeah.
He's going to be tall. I was like, well, I'm not super short, but I ain't super tall either. You got somebody else's genes, man, because he's shooting for the moon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm getting to the point now where, I actually travel a little bit. I do things. My mom will watch the kids. They're on their own anyways. They're more independent. So little periods of time, they're good by themselves. So I will go do what I did in the Army as a civilian, and I just go to different places. I've been to the Philippines. I went to Brazil like 3 times now. I like Brazil a lot, actually. It's a cool country.
Nice place.
It is. You see stuff since my brother's like, I'll never go, I'll get kidnapped. I'm like, it's nothing like that, dude. I mean, if you go to the wrong place, probably, right? But
you can get that in the United States.
But yeah, I was like, you can go down the wrong alley in New York City and have the same problems.
Right.
I don't go to those areas. I'm not that guy. I go to the beach and I go to the good spots, I've been through the country. I've taken buses across. I've never felt like I was in danger. Nice, friendly people. So yeah, now I'm kind of learning to, see the world and do that stuff when when I'm not working. But
yeah. So we've talked about a lot of stuff. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to talk about?
Gosh, we did talk about a lot. I will say, I did end up using my later in life, I took that shift supervisor job, and to take an F1, which is the highest water treatment license, you need a college education. So I finally said, I'm going to use my post 9/11, which some of us that got out earlier, ours had a clock on it. It doesn't have a clock anymore,
right?
But ours had like a 15-year clock on it, and my clock was running out at this point.
Might as well use it.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back to school. I had taken some classes in the past, not many. I mean, I might have had like 12 credit hours or something. I did some while I was in the Army here and there when I could. But I went back to school, so that, you need pretty much an associate's degree to write the F1 test. So I went back to school so I could do that, and I rode the post 9/11 GI Bill till my clock ran out. I didn't run out of money. I ran out of time.
Right.
But yeah, I would tell people, like, don't wait on that. Well, I guess you can now, but I still wouldn't. I wouldn't wait. I'd use
Things
that.
change all the time. You just never know.
Yeah, I would use it. I didn't. And the reason, I guess my golden reason for joining the military is the one thing I never did until late in life. I joined for the Army College. I mean, a lot of other reasons, but that was like, I'm gonna go to college when I'm done. And then I got a utility job, but eventually, all roads lead to Rome. And if you want to, I feel like, for the most part, not always, but for the most part, there's a ceiling to break, and education is the ceiling,
It's kind of like a tiebreaker, right?
Yep.
All things being equal, this guy's got a degree, this guy doesn't have a degree.
Yeah, I think that's, it's not a bad thing to have no matter what. So.
No. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's certainly not a bad thing to have either.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get my degree till I was like 40.
Yeah, and that's where I was at.
And I got it because I was getting my commission, and I went through OCS, and I'm like, well, I'm not going through OCS and not get a commission, so I had to go to college while I was going through OCS. It was a mess, but
hey, you got done right.
Yeah, I was a better student at 40. That's what I like to think.
Me too. Yeah, I definitely am. Like, well, I probably would have been drinking my degree away if I did it at 21.
Right. Some of us were not ready for college at that age, but yeah. Well, all right. So I just really have one last question to ask, and that is, for someone listening to your story 100 years from now, what would you like them to take away from this? What advice would you give to people?
I don't. I mean, honestly, I would say, I don't want to say like follow your dreams, right? That's cliche, but you're going to have all these plans, you're going to have all these dreams, you're going to have all these thoughts or whatever. Don't be afraid, one, to take a step in the direction you want to go in, because as long as you are committed to making it happen, you'll make it happen. And if you feel like you're lost or you feel like you need some direction, Uncle Sam is always there to help. And I personally think, after going through the experience, I think almost any person could benefit from some form of civil service, whether it's Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, paramedic, I don't know, whatever, I think as an 18-year-old, that's a great place to start. But I guess the biggest thing would be whatever you're going to do, just commit to it, follow through with it. Never quit. Don't quit. Finish whatever you start, you better finish it. I don't care what it is. And you'll always get a positive result. I can't think of a time I failed with that mindset. So,
all right. Well, thanks, Mike, and thanks for taking time out today to sit and talk with us.
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for listening to the Veterans Archives podcast, and for helping us honor the service and sacrifice of our nation's veterans. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with others so more people can hear these important stories. To learn more about our mission, watch additional veteran interviews, or find out how to record a veteran story, please visit veteransarchives.org. And if you or a veteran you know needs support or resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org. You can also hear Veterans Archives on Reads Across America Radio every Thursday at 5 p.m.